mean, I think that this tour is pretty revolutionary, you know? I mean, for the sake that we've literally come out of hiding in our normal domains to search the nation, you know, for the best players. Not only search for the nation for the best players, but like show up, build a freaking whole tournament for them, and then find them, scout them, show them how to play the formats, and then by the end of the weekend, there's a hero. I mean, I don't think anything like this has ever been done before.
So of all the heroes right now, who do you think has who's the odds-on favorite of all the heroes?
Oh, who do you think?
You know, Greenleaf is a solid player. Bushby is very. Everyone has their things, but I gotta say that it's probably Smitty.
Why do you like Smitty so much?
He's just got it all. He's this somewhat unknown-ish guy, but everyone has heard of him. People seem to be like, oh, I don't know him. Then they see a picture of him and they're like, that's him. I know him. He's like this ghost of a guy who snaps all the time, and I think he's like, everyone's laying asleep at night, all the other heroes, and they're thinking of Smitty while they're sleeping.
Smitty's the only current hero that has shot me. Put that out there.
Like
I've gotten shot by Smitty before.
And Smitty's a pump player. He knows how to make one ball count. And he does it in the stream of paint.
Okay, but then what about like you got a guy like Frankie who's just straight up brutality, you know? I feel like a guy like Frankie will have the energy to be able to combat a guy like Smitty in the long run.
Frankie's definitely unorthodox. That style could definitely cause problems for Smitty.
And then you got a Bushby who's like super crisp and clean and can make those really calculated maneuvers from bunker to bunker and shoot accurately like he did in the whole entire event in Ohio. You know, so Smitty's sitting there, and granted, Smitty won with Doritos, right? Which was kind of played into his favor of how he plays, right? And then you got a Bushby who's just small, fast, super accurate, super talented, super skilled, who could just maneuver from spot to spot and isn't afraid to come get you either, you know? But then when I see a Frankie versus a Bushby, I'm like, whoa, that's going to be an interesting matchup. But then I think between those two, I think Tommy Greenleaf will beat both of them. You know,
really knowing how styles are going to match up is so hard because we've watched so many different styles now, right? And you never know. Like we see one player come out his preliminary round and just smash the other guy, right? And we're like, oh, this guy's going to be tough. And then what do you know? The very next round he gets blown out by someone who didn't seem to be playing such a great game, you know.
Okay, so let's ask Harrison this. So we're gonna have 8 heroes, right? And they're all gonna be you know, they've all got their unique style of play, right? And the way that it's been going so far, to be able to become a hero, you've pretty much you go through a single elimination bracket, right? And then you rise to the top at the very end, winning 4 matches with an average of like 60 points to 80 points played for the day. So that's a lot of points, right? Now, these guys are going to fly out and they're going to, you know, go up against each other. What is the best way? Like, let's just imagine you were a hero, right? What would be the fairest way to discern who the best is out of that top 8? Because if we just do single elimination, it's not enough, right? So we can't do that. So we have to put them into brackets of 4 or best of 3 with, you know, matching up against each other. Like, what do you think would be ideal?
Yeah, it's either bracketed or double elimination. That's what I think. I mean, you can't have a single elimination tournament. It's too random, especially when you only have 8. So double elimination is a good way to do it. You know, go into a loser's bracket. You have to fight your way out. I like that style.
I like that.
I like a preliminary style round of.
So how would you do that? You do.
So double elimination. First round, if you lose, you go into the loser's bracket, and then you have to win to get back into the winner's bracket. And then if you win, you move on to the winner's bracket.
Like the matrix on that.
See, I think I'm more of a fan of 2 brackets of 4 people, round robin, and then everyone plays each other that's in their bracket. The top 2 from each bracket make it out. Then there's a semi-final of the 4, where it's single elimination, and then the very final is at best 2 out of 3.
Wow.
Best 2 out of 3.
Jeez.
That is attrition.
Yeah.
I like that.
I mean, they might be dead. At that point.
At least it's in October. October 22nd might not be as hot as the surface of the sun of Dallas this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, I think it really is going to come down to who gets matched up against each other. And so I would hate, like, because I do think, you know, like a player like Frankie could beat a Smitty, but then if Frankie didn't get the chance to play Smitty because he got knocked out by a Bush Bee, you know, then it would be a little bit of a shame. Versus
Therein
also
lies the round robin.
Yeah.
Therein lies the round robin. So then it's like everyone has a chance to kind of play a grouping of people, and maybe we're conscious about who's in each bracket. Like maybe if there's 2 players that have a similar style, they're in separate brackets, and then it's like, okay, because then you have like the many different styles in one
then
bracket.
it's a little bit contrived.
I think you have to do it event 1, event 2, event 3, odd even. So event 1 plays event 3, plays event 5, plays event 7. Because if you're picking and choosing, it's that's tough.
Yeah.
So do it if you're gonna bracket it out, something like that. Yeah.
Right.
Do it randomly,
5-7's a bracket, 2, 4, 6.
or the NXL does it randomly. I don't particularly
Okay,
love
so
that.
then
but
real quick, Bush Bee versus Greenleaf. What do you think wins?
I think that could be a really good matchup, but right now, from what I've seen, I'm gonna go with Greenleaf on that. That guy, he can figure stuff out a little faster. It seems like, right? And he has a lot of self-discipline, right?
Okay, so now
it's because he's from New England.
Now, who do you think would win, Frankie or Greenleaf?
That's gonna be a little tougher because I mean Frankie's definitely a powerhouse, and I think field layout's gonna play a lot to that though too on both sides, right?
Okay, who do you think would win, Travis or Frankie?
Yeah, I'd lean into Frankie on that one for sure.
Who do you think would win, Travis or?
I got to see Frankie play a lot more points than I got to see Travis. I watched the final, and Travis did really well in that. So it's hard. It's really hard for me to properly assess to say who would win that. But Travis seemed really sharp to me, really dialed in. Mutiny player. He's been playing for a long time. I'll go Travis on.
But Travis might not even show up, I heard.
Travis is gonna have to figure it out.
What does he got going on?
There's a wedding, there's this, there's that. People get married all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, the duel only comes around. This is the first one ever. This could be the only one. You never know.
Yeah.
So you gotta take the moment to
Priorities.
seize the opportunity. Priorities.
I wonder
Ask him how good that friend is.
That's a good
How good's the friend that's getting married that he's going to? That's the question.
I'll send him that message.
you need to send him a
I'm
message.
gonna send
Just say, how good is that friend?
Yeah.
You know.
Travis, how good is that friend?
Give you a chance, Travis.
Travis, you know, you can't just come into the duel and smoke everybody and claim victory of your area and then not show up to the grand finale to claim the best. You know, like you just can't do that.
This is the highest honor in paintball, right? It's the highest honor. You're a hero.
I mean, whoever wins this is gonna go down in history and potentially spark a whole new movement of paintball.
100%.
You know, I mean, this actually could be the make or break for your career, whoever you are, one of these guys, you know?
Absolutely. I think you win one of these, everyone's noticing.
Yeah,
Everyone's
it's already
watching,
recognition, right?
I mean, at this point, I already have, like, you know, 5 new favorite players in the U.S. that I didn't even know 5 weeks ago. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I'm like a fan of these guys now, you know? And I see them as future players on pro teams, you know? Whether they're already established pro teams or whether they're somebody who helps a pro team, you know, advance, you know, a semi-pro team advance into the pros.
Yeah, and coming up the ranks, it's so hard to get that exposure and so hard to prove yourself, getting a platform.
Share a little bit about that, because you've kind of done that and you've now made Dynasty, and you're obviously a very established pro these days and a household item, but like that took you a long time, you know?
Yeah, I've been playing for 17 years, and I've only been playing pro this is my 6th season. So, and I was started at the bottom. I joined the lowest ranked team in the NXL, Seattle Thunder, as their last guy. So, and then, you know, climbed the ranks, moved to Infamous, and now playing with Dynasty.
What do you think is the, like, what's kind of a, I guess I don't know, maybe not a hack, but what is the secret ingredient for someone that wants to do that?
So for me, it's exactly doing this kind of stuff. Getting to a place where pros see you and people see you, and you get exposure. For me, that was playing overseas. It was playing in Mexico, playing in Colombia, playing in Ecuador, playing in Europe. There was a tournament in Ecuador where I flew myself down and I beat the Houston Heat players. I beat Fedorov, Mishka, and Sergey on 3 different teams, and you better believe they knew my name after that, right? I was a semi-pro player with no name, and that's how you come and you make a name for yourself. My first time to Mexico, nobody knew me. I flew myself down. I paid for my own hotel. I came. We won that event, and every tournament for the past 5 years in Mexico, I've been invited down and gotten paid for. So it's you putting yourself out there, putting your money out there, showing yourself, and performing, and then the rest kind of works itself out.
And a couple years later, you're getting the call. Hello, this is Dynasty. Is Harrison Fry there? Yes, we'd like to pick you up.
And then you get a call from Oliver Lang. So.
And now you got 2 pro wins under your freaking belt.
Yeah.
In a very short time, in a European win. Which is also a little bit of a hack if you're playing, because you could play on a Thunder and a New York Extreme for years and never get a win, and that could take the wind out of your sails. It's when you get a win, you literally have another. It gives you another 5 more years in the league, pretty much. At least. I mean, a pro team, even like a X Factor or even the Ironman, they win every 5 years. Ironman 10 years, and it keeps them alive. And then a lot of these teams who never win, I mean, it's just freaking got to be hard to not win. To be honest, it's got to almost be harder to not win than to win all the time.
Trying to eat at the top of the food chain, plain and simple, right? Trying to eat at the top of the food chain.
Winning is sweet, losing sucks. Yeah, but I mean, in order to do that, you got to put yourself out there and you got to train hard.
So what do you think about these kids that are like, our new heroes that are now all over the Instagram? For the most part, people know their names in the areas, and they're, hey man, Smitty, congratulations. Hey, Cameron Bushby, congratulations, you won. Frankie, you won. What do you think it means to them as an up and coming player who wants to establish themselves to win the duel?
I think it's for sure a motivator, and hopefully for them, they're getting out there and they're doing extra drills. They're in the gym. They're doing running. To extend, because these tournaments take a lot of effort and a lot of attrition. So hopefully they're doing stuff outside the paintball field, and then also doing the training, and that's a big motivating factor for them. But the thing about winning too is, yeah, you win on a Sunday, and then Monday, everyone's the same again, because it's the tournament's over. So you have to then prove yourself again. So in order to keep winning, it's kind of like an addictive drug. You have to just keep that grind on. So I don't know. I hope it's motivating for them, and they keep.
I wonder who's gonna win Texas. You get the names?
I'm getting the names tomorrow.
I'm interested. There's a lot of talent in Texas. I mean, Texas as a state has 4 pro teams, right? And what does that feed? All the divisional players, and what does that feed? It's the biggest state in paintball. Right, this should be, I think, the most talented event we've seen yet. Just judging by what I know about paintball in the United States.
Because Alabama, I would say, brought the most heat last weekend. Yeah, and they're kind of like an unknown paintball area. But I mean, the cool thing about it was, Mikey McGowan, who owns the field, called Louisiana, called Georgia, called Florida, called Tennessee, and said, hey, guys, we need the best players here, because these guys are showing up and they're searching for the best. And literally the people got in the car from Louisiana and drove, the 8 hours or 9 hours to get there to play, And I think at this point now, finally, people are realizing the severity of what we're doing, Before it was a little bit nonchalant, Ohio was kind of like, oh, okay, what is this? Even Boston was kind of like, oh, well, yeah, sure, I'll play.
Yeah.
Now it's like, get me in there. I need to make a name for myself, They're pushing the door open and they're saying, let me in, Even now, You know, we had this ordeal with the Arizona. In Arizona, you know, Kevin's been organizing this thing the whole time, and he's been telling the field owners, hey, look, you guys get first right of refusal to who you want entered into the duel, right? Like, get your best guys. Like, you know, the guys who play at the field every weekend, who are doing the drills, who are on the top teams, you know, the best players in the area. You invite them first. If they don't want to show up, open it to the general public, right? And so they kind of did it backwards. They opened it to the general public first, they filled it out, and then they realized, oh wait, actually we're supposed to be inviting the best, right? So now they've reorganized it and shuffled it around, and a few hearts were broken, you know, but I think it's going to be a good talent in Arizona now, you know. And yeah, I'm very curious about Texas, and Todd Martinez is organizing the SC Village one, so I think he's handpicking some supremely stellar studs from the Southern California area, you know. And I hope NorCal people drive down too. I mean, I grew up in NorCal, having to drive down to SC Village every weekend to practice, which was 9 hours, sometimes longer, you know, and then drive back the Sunday night and get to school on Monday morning, you know. That was my high school career for the most part, you know. So yeah, I mean, I feel like finally people are understanding this, and now you're going to see it this weekend. More pros are getting on board. You know, Nick Laval was there. We had a few players from the Level. We had a few players from the Hurricanes this last week in Alabama. We had some legendary pros in Florida come out and be generals. And man, I feel like we're really just like the plane was going and it started to lift off, and now it's like soaring finally, you know. And it took 5 weeks. You know, so in a weird way, I think we intuited the perfect amount of time, which was 2 months. You know, because even if we did one event, it wouldn't have been enough. If we did 2 events, it wouldn't have been enough. You know, 3 events wouldn't have even been enough. 4 events, maybe. But now after 5, it's like people are understanding it. And
legitimate tournament season in 2 months, in 8 weeks, we're producing basically 8 individuals freestanding events all over the nation, right? So it's a lot. It's a lot, but it's also, you know, it's like a blitzkrieg. It's getting the word out there, and it's taking off. It's catching fire now. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the biggest message I have for anybody who's watching and is interested in this sort of thing is you have to realize that, like Harrison's saying, is paintball takes a large amount of dedication and determination, perseverance, and it is incredibly tricky to climb to the professional level as a player. And I feel like in this format, if you show up and you prevail, you've just bypassed maybe 5 years of this path, right? Like, you have expedited the dross of, you know, playing on a divisional team and then paying to go to Mexico to go to these events, right? Like, if you show up and you win, like, now you're in a really upper echelon of the sport, especially, you know, in your area, right? And now even I know who the best is in that area, you know, and I'm looking forward to seeing who the best is in Texas, because you're right. I think Texas is the powerhouse of paintball right now, you know, with that fit paintball field, and like you said, 4 pro teams. Like, that's a mecca of paintball players.
I think we're seeing another level of commitment as well. Me and Kevin were kind of talking about this because of just the weather right now. I mean, this is usually the slow part of the year because it is the hotter part of the year. Most of the time people aren't playing tournaments and they're more summer vacation at the beach, that kind of thing, right? So for them to come out and play in this heat and under these conditions and still to be performing the way they are, right? You know, this is a whole other level. This is a whole other level of commitment.
Whoever shows up to Texas and wins Texas is probably going to be a badass motherfucker.
Man.
Yeah, or woman.
More woman.
Yeah.
Texas has a few women teams too. I'd be curious to see
We've
that.
had a few women duelers already. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see. I think also what's cool about the duel, especially as it advances, and again, getting the support and getting the people to show up, is that if they do show up, the potentiality with this format, with the duel, you can have a women's division, easy. You can have a kids division, easy. You can have an over, 45 division, easy, You can have a pro, you can have an open division. Like, as this starts to evolve, we're gonna really start to see the cream that rises to the top. And I think that's gonna be beneficial for paintball all around, let alone regionally. And it's gonna intensify the professionalism for those guys to then be able to obtain a more elite status in the game, whether it goes to be calls from the Dynasty or call from Impact, call from wherever it is, or them taking their team into the pros, you know?
Yeah, because when a pro team's looking for a spot, right? Like say Dynasty last year, you know, lost Spica and Dalton, right? So they need to fill a spot. So they go through who they know, right? They go through, all right, what players really gave us a hard time last year? What players are local to us, you know, logistically? And just having like a name like a Tommy Greenleaf or a Smitty, like if you're from Florida, if you're from New England, like, well, that guy won a one-on-one duel thing and he went to the national champions and won 10 grand on some duel. That means he's probably pretty good. Let's consider him, right? It doesn't mean you're guaranteed on the pro team, but it's definitely a strong consideration, because otherwise you're just some player on a you know, divisional team that might, you know, if you never won a divisional place or you're not consistently winning, like you see teams like in semi-pro, like on Paintball Fit, they get Paintball Fit and Blast Camp, they're first and second place every event this year. Obviously teams are noticing them, right? And people are noticing them because, well, they're always winning and they're always on the pro field. So it's just a chance to get exposure and to see it, to show your talent.
Let's hit the town.
Hit the town. Yeah, Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras, here we come.
Here we go.